Good day, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, I'm working through the low interest loans examples. So the first example is A obtained a loan of 50,000 from his employer on 1 December 2020 to pay for a family holiday. The employer charged him interest of 2.5% per annum. A had the option to use his credit card, but interest would have been 5% per annum. A repaid the loan in full on 1 February 2021. What's the value of the fringe benefit that will be included in A's gross income? So there's a lot of relevant information here, but there's also some information that is not that relevant. The value of the loan, the capital outstanding, is important. You must always check that value, remembering that there's an exclusion if the loan amount is 3,000 rands or less. The period, so he got the loan from the employer on 1 December 2020, he repaid it on 1 February 2021. You need to work out the period that the capital was outstanding for, because you need that in working out the fringe benefits. You need to know the number of days that the interest was being levied for. So it would be the whole of December, 31 days, plus the whole of Jan, 31 days. In total, it's 62 days. What he actually used the loan for, it's not really important unless we can see that it was for study purposes. Then it becomes relevant because it triggers the exclusion. The employer charged him 2.5% per annum. So this is the rate that we would compare and see versus the SARS official rate. How does it compare? Does it result in a fringe benefit or not? In terms of the SARS official rates, you would work with what is given to you in the question. In this question, you're not given anything. So then you would refer back to the source of the SARS official rate. There's a link to a PDF site where SARS publishes the official rate as and when the repo rate changes. So based on that PDF from 1 August 2020, the SARS official rate was 4.5% until the repo rate would have changed. So we will work with the 4.5%, that was the latest published SARS official rate, and compare that to the 2.5% that the employer charged on this loan. What about this 5% that he would have had to pay if he'd used his credit card? That information is not relevant. It represents a market-related rate, but that's not what we use for purposes of this fringe benefit. So you would take the 4.5% being the SARS official rate minus 2.5%, which is the actual rate on the loan, times the capital outstanding of 50,000 times 62 divided by 365. That gives you a fringe benefit of 170 rands. The second question has the same facts, except now I've changed what he is using the loan for. He's using it to pay for school fees, and we know that that is an exclusion. So it's excluded from the fringe benefit, and it would not trigger any fringe benefit. There would be a zero included in his gross income. If you see that in a question, it's still important to explain why it has no impact in the taxable income calculation. You could say a loan used for study, therefore excluded from fringe benefit. The next question, I've then reduced the loan amount to 3,000 rands. Having changed the reason, he's still using it for holiday. So you would see it's a 3,000 rand loan. That should remind you of that exclusion of loans that are 3,000 rands or less. But the second thing you must check is that it is a short-term loan. So 3 to 6 months would be considered short-term. And we can see here it's only outstanding for 2 months. So he meets both of that criteria in terms of the value and the period. So again, this would be excluded from the fringe benefit. Then the last example, the facts stay the same as in number 1, but I'm asking a different question. I'm saying, assuming that A used his credit card for the holiday and paid the credit card company 2.5%, and his employer paid the other 2.5%, how much would be included in A's gross income? This, when reading this, you should realize that this is now changing the nature of the fringe benefit. A now owes the credit card company. He doesn't owe the employer. And therefore it's changing the nature of the fringe benefits. No longer a low interest loan between an employer and an employee. It's now an employer subsidizing an employee's debt. which is another different type of fringe benefit. So this was a trick question just to illustrate to you how similar the two are, but at the same time they are different. So don't get confused. And how you would work out the fringe benefit for the subsidy is you want to see what would a market-related interest rate had been on this debt. So if A was solely responsible for the debt, he would be paying 5% to the credit card company. But thanks to his employer, he's only paying 2.5%. So to work out this fringe benefit, you would take the market rate of 5% minus what the employer is contributing or subsidizing, and that you would then multiply by the capital outstanding of 50,000, multiply by the number of days that the loan was actually outstanding for, divided by 365. And that then gives you the value of the fringe benefit, because you're saying, had the employer not helped him, he would be paying 5%, but thanks to the employer's help, he's only paying 2.5%. So this is working out the difference, the benefit that he's deriving from the fact that the employer is actually subsidizing his interest payments to the credit card company. And the key takeaway point there is here you use the market value because it is a subsidy. But if we're dealing with low interest loans, we use the SARS official rate as our benchmark. Then the last example is for the deemed low interest loan. B rents a house from his employer from 1 March 2020. He's given an option to acquire the house owned by his employer at a cost of 180,000. The rent expense is 500 rands per month and is based on 3.33% of the purchase price. The house cost the employer 150,000. Assume the repurchase rate has been 7% for the whole year of assessment. Okay, so based on the given information here, you can see that this scenario meets the criteria of a deemed low interest loan. He's living in a house owned by an employer. He's got an option to acquire that house in future at a future agreed price, and his rent is based on a percentage of that purchase price. So that would trigger then the deemed low interest loan fringe benefit. The fact that they told you how much the employer paid for the house is not actually relevant for purposes of working this out. And you'll notice that in this question, we've given you a repurchase rate. So you would then use that, ignore what is actually the repo rate, work with what is given in the question. So to work out the SARS official rates here, you would then take the 7% plus the 1%, and your SARS official rate would be 8%. Then the value of the fringe benefit will be the difference between that SARS official rate of 8% minus the 3.33% multiplied by the agreed price that he's going to acquire this property for in future of 180,000, and then multiply by 365 over 365 because he was enjoying this benefit for the full year of assessment. So the fringe benefits here would be valued at 8,400. You'll see I've used the rate here on the rental. If you were not given the percentage of the rental or the rental as a percentage of the agreed price, you can still use the actual rent expense. Your calculation just looks slightly different. You would start with the official rate of 8%, multiply by the 180,000 being the agreed purchase price, multiply by 365 over 365, and then minus the rent expense, which would be 500 rands times the 12 months. It should still get you to the same answer. Okay, that's how you'd work out the fringe benefit for a deemed low interest loan. And that's the end of my examples. Thank you very much for your time, and I want to wish you all the best with your studies.